Have you ever noticed how heavy the silence feels when you are waiting for a single word that never comes? You have been hurt, betrayed, ignored, or deeply misunderstood by someone you trusted. But the hardest part is often not the action itself. It is what happened afterward. Nothing. They carry on with their life, smiling, laughing, living exactly as if the pain they caused you never existed. And there you are, holding a wound that they refuse to look at. You wait for an apology. You wait for them to look you in the eyes and say, "I see what I did, and I am sorry." But the days pass, the weeks turn into months, and the apology never arrives. What if the thing you are desperately trying to hold on to is the very thing stealing your peace? Most people do not realize that waiting for an apology is just another way of remaining tied to the person who hurt you. You have given them the key to your own healing, standing outside a locked door, waiting for them to open it. But what if they never do? Buddhist wisdom teaches us a profound truth about where our suffering truly begins. We often believe our pain comes strictly from the unfair events that happen to us. But in reality, the deepest layer of our suffering comes from our attachment to how things should have been. You are attached to the idea of a resolution. You are clinging to the belief that your healing cannot begin until they admit they were wrong. Imagine you are walking through a beautiful forest and someone throws a sharp, heavy rock at you. It strikes you and it hurts deeply. The person who threw it simply turns around and walks away, completely unbothered. Instead of tending to your wound, you pick up that heavy rock and carry it with you. You follow the person from a distance, holding the rock out, demanding they look at it. You shout for them to acknowledge how heavy it is, to admit they threw it. You carry this burden for miles, your arms aching, exhausting yourself in the pursuit of their validation. But they never look back. All the while, you are the one carrying the weight. They are walking free. This is exactly what we do in our minds. Someone speaks to us cruelly. A friend turns their back on us. A partner walks away without explanation. And instead of dropping the weight, we replay the scenario in our heads 1,000 times. We write perfect paragraphs in our minds, hoping that if we just find the right words, they will finally understand and feel remorse. We watch their lives from afar, hoping to see a sign of guilt, only to find them acting as if nothing happened at all. Think about your own life right now. Ask yourself, whose apology are you still waiting for? What are you afraid will happen if you simply let the expectation go? Is this constant waiting bringing you peace, or is it feeding your exhaustion? Pause. Breathe. Let this truth settle within you. You do not need their permission to heal. Stop trying to force the door open. Let go of the heavy rock. You do not have to chase what is already leaving, and you do not have to demand validation from a heart that is closed. Your peace of mind is far more valuable than their admission of guilt. But stepping away from this waiting game is only the first step. Because beneath the desire for an apology lies a much deeper illusion we must face. 2. The illusion of the apology. What if the very thing you are chasing is a mirage? Here is a truth that is difficult to face. An apology rarely does what we think it will do. We build up the idea of an apology in our minds. We think that if they just say they are sorry, the pain will instantly vanish. We believe the unfairness will be erased, and the sleepless nights, the overthinking, and the heavy feeling in our chest will all be washed away by their words. We tie our inner peace to their vocal cords. But when someone acts as if they did nothing wrong, the apology they might eventually give, if forced or pressured, is often empty. It is just a sound, not a cure. Buddhist wisdom teaches the concept of non-attachment and the danger of projecting our happiness onto external events. We suffer deeply because we create a rigid condition for our healing. We say to ourselves, "I can only be whole again when they admit they broke me." We believe our peace must be validated by the person who took it from us. But Buddhism reminds us that true peace cannot depend on the actions, words, or awareness of another person. If your peace requires someone else to change their mind or admit their faults, you will always be at the mercy of the changing world. Imagine standing in an open field after a sudden, violent storm. The wind has broken branches, and the heavy rain has left the ground deeply flooded. You stand in the cold mud, looking up at the sky, demanding that the storm clouds come back and apologize for the damage they caused. You refuse to clear the branches. You refuse to seek shelter. You simply stand in the ruins, waiting for the weather to admit it was wrong. But the clouds simply drift across the sky, completely indifferent to your demands. The sky does not apologize. It just moves on. This is how we live when we depend on someone else's remorse. A colleague betrays your trust and smiles at you the very next day. A family member dismisses your feelings and expects you to act perfectly normal at the dinner table. A person you loved walks away, leaving you with profound silence instead of reasons. And so, you stand in the emotional wreckage. You refuse to clean it up until they admit they caused the storm. You let their ignorance dictate your emotional state. Think about your own life. Ask yourself, are you holding your own healing hostage? If they never, ever apologize, will you simply refuse to be at peace for the rest of your life? Is this demand for validation bringing you freedom, or is it only keeping you standing in the cold? Pause. Breathe. Observe the thought without following it. You do not need to wait for the clouds to return. You can choose to seek warmth, step out of the mud, and begin to repair what was broken on your own. Because true validation does not come from the mouth of the one who harmed you. It comes from your own decision to move forward. But letting go of this illusion brings us to a harder realization. It forces us to look at the pain we are actively causing ourselves, long after the other person has walked away. And this is where the next truth begins. 3. The arrow we shoot ourselves. What if the pain you feel today is no longer caused by what they did, but by what you keep telling yourself about what they did? Here is a hard truth. They hurt you once, but by replaying the memory over and over in your mind, you have hurt yourself 1,000 times. You obsess over their silence. You wonder how they can sleep so peacefully while you lie awake. You might even look at their life from a distance, watching them laugh and carry on, driving the unfairness deeper into your own heart. You are waiting for them to fix a wound that you are actively picking at every single day. One of the deepest lessons of Buddhism addresses this exact cycle of self-inflicted pain. It is found in the ancient teaching of the two arrows. Buddhism reminds us that being hurt in this world is unavoidable, but how long we suffer from that hurt is a choice. Attachment to the pain and to the story of the pain is what keeps us trapped. Imagine you are walking along a quiet path, and suddenly, from the shadows, a stray arrow strikes you. It is sharp, sudden, and deeply painful. This is the first arrow. It represents the initial hurt, the cruel remark, the sudden abandonment, the blatant disrespect. You did not ask for this arrow. You could not control it. But instead of sitting down, breathing, and gently removing the arrow to heal the wound, you panic. You become consumed with anger and confusion. You scream into the forest, demanding to know who shot it. You ask why they chose you. You replay the moment of impact. And in your outrage, you grab a second arrow from the ground and violently drive it into your own chest to prove how much the first one hurt. The first arrow was shot by the world, but the second arrow was shot by you. This is exactly what we do when someone acts as if nothing happened. The first arrow was the moment they let you down or walked away. That was their doing. But the second arrow is every time you replay the conversation in your head, trying to win an argument that is already over. The second arrow is, Every time you convince yourself that their lack of an apology means you are unworthy of respect, you are doing their destructive work for them. They fired the first shot and left. You are the one who keeps pulling the second arrow over and over, hoping that somehow your continued suffering will finally make them notice. Think about your own life. Ask yourself, how many second arrows are you carrying right now? Are you continuing to punish yourself for someone else's blindness? Is this thought bringing you peace or feeding your fear? Pause, breathe. Let the feeling rise without making it your identity. Notice when your mind reaches for the second arrow. You have the power to put it down. You cannot change the fact that you were struck the first time, but you never have to strike yourself again. You do not need to keep injuring yourself just because they refuse to see your pain. Let that sink in. You can simply choose to stop bleeding for someone who does not care that you are wounded. But dropping the second arrow is only part of the journey. To truly let it go, we have to understand why we are clinging so desperately to their approval in the first place. And this is where the next truth begins. What if you are asking someone who has closed their eyes to describe the light of your worth? Here is the truth few people want to face. When someone hurts you and acts as if everything is perfectly normal, the deepest sting is not the original offense. It is the terrifying feeling that your emotions do not matter. We desperately want them to validate our pain so that we can be certain our pain is real. We seek their acknowledgement to prove that we were right, that we were wronged, and that our feelings have value. We stand before them, presenting our broken pieces, silently begging them to confirm that we are shattered. But seeking this validation from the exact person who broke you is an endless, exhausting trap. Buddhist wisdom teaches that building your peace on the opinions of others is like building a house on shifting sand. In Buddhist thought, clinging to the approval or acknowledgement of others is a profound form of attachment. It causes suffering because you are handing control of your inner world to an unpredictable external force. Buddhism reminds us that your inherent worth, your true nature, cannot be given or taken away by another human being's words, and it certainly cannot be destroyed by their silence. Imagine a single candle burning brightly in a quiet, dark room. The candle does not need the shadows to announce that it is shining. It does not need the walls to applaud its warmth. If someone walks into the room, tightly shuts their eyes, and loudly claims that the room is still, completely dark, the candle does not suddenly lose its light. It does not flicker, doubt itself, and die, simply because a single person refuses to open their eyes. It continues to burn, silent, steady, and complete in itself. Yet, this is exactly what we forget in our daily lives. When someone ignores your boundaries, you start to question your own light. When a friend dismisses your feelings or a family member talks over you as if nothing happened, you begin to doubt your own reality. You think, if they do not see my hurt, maybe I am just overreacting. You try to shine brighter, you argue louder, you explain yourself in exhausting detail, draining all your energy just to make a closed pair of eyes finally see your light. Think about your own life. Ask yourself, why does your pain only feel real if they admit they caused it? Why does your self-respect require their signature to be valid? Is the pursuit of their validation bringing you peace, or is it only making you feel more invisible? Pause, breathe. Let the feeling rise without making it your identity. You do not need their sight to confirm your light. You do not need their confession to make your healing real. Stop trying to force them to see. You are not powerless. You simply need to realize that your worth was never in their hands to begin with. It has always belonged to you. But taking that power back fully requires us to let go of the specific way we want our story to end. And this is where the next truth begins. 5. The mirage of closure. What if the perfect ending you are waiting for is just a story you made up in your head? Here is the truth. We are obsessed with endings. When someone hurts us and carries on as if nothing happened, we feel as though we are trapped in a chapter that ended abruptly mid-sentence. We want the final conversation. We crave the deep, honest talk where they finally explain why they did what they did and apologize for the pain. We believe that we cannot possibly move forward until the loose ends are tied up perfectly. We call this closure. But chasing closure from someone who refuses to look back is like chasing a shadow. The faster you run toward it, the further away it moves. In Buddhist thought, one of the deepest lessons is the understanding of impermanence and the illusion of completeness. Life is not a perfectly written novel with a satisfying conclusion for every character. It is a continuous, unpredictable flow. Attachment to closure causes suffering because it is a demand that the world must conform to your logical expectations. You are demanding that an irrational, hurtful situation suddenly make perfect sense. Buddhism reminds us that peace does not come from neatly tying up the past. It comes from accepting that some things will simply remain permanently unfinished. Imagine standing in a long hallway, facing a heavy, locked door. On the other side is the person who hurt you. You believe that behind that door is the apology, the explanation, and the closure you need to finally be free. So, you knock, you wait, you slide notes under the gap. You spend weeks, months, perhaps even years staring at the wood, waiting for the lock to turn. You are so fixated on the door that you do not even notice the vast, open world behind you. The sun is shining, a gentle breeze is blowing, and 1,000 other beautiful paths are waiting for you to walk them. But you refuse to turn around. You refuse to take a single step forward until they give you the key. This is exactly how we live when we demand closure from those who act as if they did no wrong. A romantic partner leaves a mess and walks away, and you spend your evenings rereading old messages, trying to find the missing puzzle piece. A longtime friend cuts you off without a word, and you replay years of memories, trying to make their silence make sense. You pause your entire life, staring at a closed door, waiting for an explanation that they have no intention of giving. Think about your own life. Ask yourself, are you pausing your present because you are demanding a better ending to your past? What beautiful things are you missing right now because you are staring at a door that will never open? Pause, breathe, observe the thought without following it. Stop knocking. You do not need their key to turn around and walk away. You can give yourself closure right now, simply by accepting that the story is over. You do not need the final chapter to be written by them, because staring at that door for too long does not just keep you stuck in one place. It slowly begins to change you, filling you with a quiet, invisible poison. And this is where the next truth begins. 6. The poison of resentment. What if the anger you hold against them is actually burning you from the inside out? Here is a painful reality. When someone hurts you and acts perfectly normal, the unfairness of it all creates a deep, lingering anger. You see them smiling, completely unbothered, while you are left carrying the heavy burden of their actions. Over time, that unpaid emotional debt curdles into resentment. You begin to despise their ignorance. You hold onto this anger like a shield, believing that if you stay angry enough, you are somehow holding them accountable in your mind. You think your fury is a form of justice, but your resentment does not touch them. It only consumes you. One of the deepest lessons of Buddhism warns us about the destructive nature of holding on to anger. In Buddhist thought, resentment is not a punishment for the person who harmed you. It is a cage for your own mind. Buddhism reminds us that clinging to bitterness disrupts our inner peace, blinding us to the beauty of the present moment. There is a profound Buddhist teaching that compares holding on to anger to grasping a glowing hot coal with the intention of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. Imagine standing in a quiet room, gripping a piece of burning coal tightly in your bare hand. The heat sears your skin. The pain is excruciating. You are staring out the window, waiting for the person who wronged you to walk by, so you can finally throw this burning rock at them, so they can finally feel the pain they caused you. But they never walk by. Hours turn into days. Days turn into years. And all the while, your hand is clenching this fire. The person you are angry with is far away, completely unaffected by the heat. They do not feel a single spark. You are the only one in pain, simply because you refuse to open your hand and let the fire drop. This is exactly what we do when we refuse to let go of our resentment. You see the person who betrayed you acting carefree, and instantly your chest tightens. You lose an entire afternoon to a sour mood, pacing your room and arguing with a ghost. You end up snapping at the people who actually love you, all because you are gripping the hot coal of the past. You let their past actions ruin your present peace. You are sacrificing your own joy, waiting to throw a fire that will never reach them. Think about your own life. Ask yourself, who is truly suffering from this anger right now? Is your bitterness punishing them, or is it only burning you? What would happen if you simply decided to open your hand, pause, breathe, observe the thought without following it? You do not have to hold on to the fire to prove that the burn was real. Let that sink in. You can drop the coal, not because they deserve to be forgiven, but because your hands deserve to heal. Stop letting their lack of awareness dictate your peace. You can let the fire go without ever receiving an apology, but putting down the anger is just the beginning of remembering who you truly are. And this is where the next truth begins. 7. Reclaiming your power. What if your true strength lies not in making them understand, but in realizing you no longer need them to? Here is the truth. When someone deeply hurts you and then acts as if nothing happened, it feels as though they have stolen something vital from you. They walk away with your peace, your trust, and your sense of fairness, leaving you feeling small and powerless. You believe that because they took your power, they are the only ones who can give it back. You wait for their apology because you think it is the only way to restore your dignity. But as long as you are waiting for them to fix what they broke, they are still in control of your life. In Buddhist thought, true power is never found in controlling the external world or forcing others to see our truth. Buddhism teaches that true agency comes from non-attachment to the actions of others. The actions of the person who hurt you belong entirely to them. Their ignorance belongs to them, but your reaction, your healing, and your inner peace belong entirely to you. When you detach your self-worth from their acknowledgement, you instantly take all of your power back. Imagine a deep, ancient river flowing steadily toward the ocean. One day, a careless traveler tosses a heavy handful of dirt and debris into the water. The traveler walks away, completely ignoring the mess they made. What does the river do? It does not stop flowing. It does not reverse its current to chase the traveler and demand they clean the water. It does not wait in stagnant silence for an apology. The river simply keeps moving. The dirt settles, the water clears itself, and the river continues its powerful journey, completely unbothered by the traveler who has long since disappeared. The river's power is in its flow, not in the traveler's actions. This is how we must view our own energy. Someone in your family makes a cruel comment and expects you to smile. A partner betrays you and refuses to take responsibility. You spend weeks feeling stagnant, muddying your own waters by obsessing over their behavior. You stop your entire life to focus on the dirt they threw. But true strength is remembering that you are the river. You do not need to wait for them to clean up the mess before you are allowed to move forward. Think about your own life. Ask yourself, how much of your daily energy are you handing over to someone who is not even paying attention? Are you letting their carelessness stop your flow? What if you simply decided to keep moving, pause, breathe, bring your attention back to your own center? Stop giving them authority over your peace. You do not need them to validate your worth for it to be real. You can simply let the dirt settle and keep flowing forward. Taking your power back means choosing your own path, regardless of their silence. But to truly move on, we must make peace with the reality of who they are, rather than who we wish they would be. And this is where the next truth begins. 8. Radical acceptance. What if the only way to heal a deep wound is to finally accept that the person who cut you simply does not know how to hold a bandage? Here is a quiet, difficult truth. We often suffer because we project our own heart onto other people. Because you would immediately apologize if you realized you hurt someone, you expect them to do the exact same thing. Because you possess the self-awareness to reflect on your mistakes, you demand that they look inward too. But the painful reality of waiting for an apology is often rooted in a stubborn refusal to see the other person exactly as they are. You are holding them to a standard of empathy and courage that they simply do not possess. Buddhist wisdom teaches that a vast amount of our suffering arises when we fight against reality. We cling tightly to the way people should behave, rather than accepting the way they actually are. In Buddhism, true clarity means seeing the world without the distortion of our own desires. When someone hurts you and acts as if nothing happened, it is not always a calculated plot to destroy you. Very often, it is a profound lack of awareness. It is a limitation of their own mind. Accepting this is not excusing their bad behavior. It is simply protecting your own peace from their ignorance. Imagine walking through a vast, sun-baked desert, parched and desperately thirsty. After hours of walking, you come across an old stone well. You lower your wooden bucket deep into the darkness, hoping to pull up cool, clear water. But when you haul the heavy rope back up, the bucket is completely empty. The well is entirely dry. Instead of accepting this reality and continuing your journey to find a true oasis, you become furious. You stand by the well for weeks, the sun beating down on you, lowering the bucket over and over. You scream down into the stones, demanding that the well produce water. But the well is not holding water back just to spite you. It is simply empty. It has nothing to give. This is exactly what we do when we demand validation from those who cannot give it. You keep going back to a family member who has always avoided responsibility, expecting a level of emotional maturity they have never once shown. You try to explain your broken heart to someone who only knows how to run away from discomfort. You are dropping your bucket into a dry well, exhausting yourself with every empty pull, and then feeling rejected when the water does not appear. Their inability to apologize is a reflection of their own internal emptiness. It is not a reflection of your worth. Think about your own life. Ask yourself, are you demanding water from a stone? Are you suffering because you refuse to accept the emotional limitations of the person who hurt you? What would happen if you finally stopped lowering the bucket and walked away? Pause, breathe, observe the reality of who they are, without the comforting illusion of who you wish they were. Stop expecting depth from a shallow space. Let that sink in. You do not have to like what they did, but you can accept that they do not have the capacity to give you the apology you deserve. Letting go of this expectation brings a profound sense of relief. Because when you stop fighting reality, you create space for the ultimate release. And this is where the final truth begins. 9. Forgiving the unapologetic. What if forgiveness has absolutely nothing to do with them, and everything to do with setting yourself free? In the beginning, we spoke about the heavy silence, the agonizing wait for a single word that never comes. We talked about walking through the forest of your life, carrying a sharp, heavy rock thrown by someone who simply turned and walked away. You held that weight for miles, hoping they would look back, hoping they would finally acknowledge the burden they placed upon your shoulders. You tied your healing to their awakening. But look at how much you have learned. Now you know the truth. You know that an apology is often a mirage, an illusion we believe will magically cure our pain. You have seen how we shoot ourselves with the second arrow, replaying the hurt and doing their destructive work for them. You have realized that your inner light does not require their closed eyes to prove it is shining. You understand that closure is not a key they hold, but a door you can simply walk away from. You have recognized the poison of resentment, the burning coal that only sears the hand that refuses to drop it. You have reclaimed your power, remembering that you are the deep river that keeps flowing despite the dirt tossed into its waters. And you have accepted the hardest reality of all. You can no longer lower your bucket into a dry well, expecting a cool drink. This entire journey leads to one final, quiet place. Forgiving the unapologetic. In Buddhist thought, forgiveness is not a pardon for the person who harmed you. It is not an invitation for them to return to your life, nor is it an agreement that what they did was acceptable. Forgiveness is simply the profound act of untying the knot. It is the realization that harboring malice only binds you to the very person you are trying to escape. To forgive someone who acts as if nothing happened is the ultimate act of self-respect. It means saying to the universe, "My peace is far more important than their punishment." Think about your own life one last time. Ask yourself, are you finally ready to put the weight down? Are you ready to stop waiting for an ending they will never write, so that you can begin your next chapter? Imagine standing in that forest right now. Look down at your hands. See the heavy rock you have been carrying for so long. The rock of their ignorance. The rock of your endless waiting. The rock of the apology that never arrived. Feel its rough edges. Feel how deeply exhausted your arms are from holding it up to a world that refuses to look. Now, open your fingers. Let it fall. Hear it hit the earth with a heavy thud. Shake the dust from your hands. Stand up tall. Take a deep, slow breath of clear air. Look at the vast, beautiful path unfolding in front of you. They may never look back. They may never understand what they broke or the deep silence they left behind. But look at you. You are walking completely free. Pause, breathe. You do not have to carry them anymore. You do not have to wait for a single word to be whole. The silence they left behind is no longer a punishment. It is simply the quiet space where your new peace begins. If these lessons touched your heart, share this video with someone who may need a little more peace today. You can let go now.